Have you ever noticed how happiness is being sold as the ultimate prize everywhere you look? Scroll through your social media feed and you'll see perfect smiles, dream vacations, and endless motivational quotes, all promising that happiness is just one more purchase, one more achievement, or one more mindset shift away. Self-help books line the shelves, each one offering a new formula for joy, while even our everyday conversations seem to revolve around the question, are you happy? It's as if happiness has become the pinnacle of existence, the one thing we're all supposed to be chasing. But here's the strange thing. The more we chase happiness, the more it seems to slip through our fingers. It's like trying to catch your own shadow. Just when you think you've got it, it moves further away. This paradox leaves many of us feeling frustrated, anxious, and even more distant from the happiness we're told is so essential. What if, instead of bringing us closer to fulfillment, this relentless pursuit is actually making us miserable? The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche dared to challenge this very idea. He questioned whether happiness should be our highest goal at all. So what if the problem isn't that we haven't found happiness, but that we're looking for it in the wrong way? Let's explore Nietzsche's radical challenge to the dogma of happiness and see where it leads us. Nietzsche's perspective on happiness is nothing short of revolutionary. He looked at the world's obsession with pleasure and comfort and saw a fundamental mistake. For Nietzsche, the pursuit of happiness as an end in itself is misguided, even dangerous. He believed that when we make happiness our highest aim, we end up living shallow lives, constantly running from discomfort and never truly growing. In his eyes, happiness isn't something to be hunted down or clung to. Instead, it's a fleeting byproduct, a shadow that appears only when we're focused on something deeper. So, what did Nietzsche think we should focus on instead? He argued that the true engine of life isn't pleasure, but power. Now, before you imagine power in the sense of controlling others or amassing wealth, Nietzsche meant something much more personal and profound. He spoke of power over oneself, the ability to overcome challenges, to grow, to transform, and to become stronger through adversity. This inner power, this will to rise above our limitations, is what gives life its richness and meaning. Nietzsche saw the endless search for comfort and happiness as a kind of escape, a way of avoiding the real work of living. He believed that by running from pain and seeking only pleasure, we actually rob ourselves of the very experiences that make us resilient and alive. So if happiness isn't the goal, what is? What alternative does Nietzsche offer us? And how does it change the way we approach our lives? To answer that, we need to dive deeper into his most famous idea, the will to power. When you first hear the phrase, the will to power, it might sound like he's talking about dominating others or climbing to the top at any cost. But Nietzsche's vision is far more nuanced and personal. The will to power for him is the deep, vital force within each of us. The drive to overcome obstacles, to grow beyond our current selves, and to expand our potential. It's about transforming adversity into strength, turning setbacks into stepping stones, and constantly pushing the boundaries of who we are. This drive isn't about external conquest. It's about internal mastery. It's the quiet determination that helps you face your fears, the resilience that gets you back up after a fall, and the creativity that emerges when you're challenged. Nietzsche believed that this will to power is the true essence of life, the invisible engine that propels us forward and gives our existence meaning. And here's where it gets really interesting. In Nietzsche's view, happiness isn't something you achieve by aiming for it directly. Instead, happiness is what happens when you're fully engaged in the process of overcoming, growing, and striving. It's the satisfaction that comes after a hard-won victory, the quiet pride of having faced yourself and come out stronger. Happiness, then, is a side effect, a natural consequence of living with courage and purpose. But if Nietzsche's will to power is all about embracing challenge and growth, how does that fit with the way our modern world encourages us to deal with discomfort and suffering? This is where the contrast becomes striking, and it's worth exploring how our culture's approach might be holding us back from true fulfillment. If we look honestly at the world around us, it's clear that modern society is built on the promise of comfort and ease. We're surrounded by products, services, and technologies designed to eliminate inconvenience and pain. Advertisements promise quick fixes, miracle diets, and instant success. Social media is filled with highlight reels, making it seem like everyone else is living a life free from struggle. Even when we face emotional pain, there's a growing industry of distractions, endless scrolling, binge watching, and a constant stream of entertainment, all designed to help us numb discomfort rather than confront it. But what's the cost of this relentless avoidance? More and more, we see rising levels of anxiety, depression, and a pervasive sense of inadequacy. When we're told that happiness should be constant and suffering is a sign of failure, every setback feels like a personal defeat. We start to believe that if we're not happy all the time, something must be wrong with us. This mindset turns the natural ups and downs of life into crises, leaving us feeling isolated and unfulfilled. Nietzsche, however, saw suffering in a completely different light. For him, pain wasn't an evil to be eliminated, but a necessary ingredient for greatness. So, what happens when we stop running from discomfort and instead see it as a vital part of our journey? This shift in perspective can radically change how we understand happiness and what it means to live a meaningful life. Nietzsche believed that suffering isn't just an unfortunate part of life. It's actually the crucible in which our greatest strengths are forged. He saw pain and adversity as the raw materials for transformation and self-knowledge. When we encounter hardship, we're forced to confront our limitations, question our beliefs, and dig deep to find new reserves of resilience. It's in these moments of struggle that we discover who we really are and what we're truly capable of becoming. Think about the times in your own life when you faced a personal crisis. Maybe it was the loss of a job, the end of a relationship, or a period of deep uncertainty. In the moment, the pain can feel overwhelming, but looking back, you might realize that those experiences pushed you to grow in ways you never expected. They forced you to adapt, to reevaluate your priorities, and to develop strengths you didn't know you had. History is full of examples that echo this truth. Artists often create their most powerful work in the midst of turmoil. Great leaders and innovators, from Nelson Mandela to Steve Jobs, have faced setbacks and failures that became turning points in their journeys. The adversity they endured didn't break them. It shaped them, giving their lives a depth and meaning that comfort alone could never provide. For Nietzsche, suffering is not something to be avoided at all costs, but something to be embraced as a teacher. If pain is essential to our growth, then perhaps the real question isn't how to avoid suffering, but how to use it to live a more meaningful life. So what does it actually mean to live meaningfully in light of this perspective? For Nietzsche, the real purpose of life isn't to seek comfort or avoid pain, but to overcome, to rise above our personal and collective limitations. He believed that greatness is not measured by status, wealth, or even happiness, but by our ability to confront challenges and transform ourselves in the process. Every obstacle we face, every failure we endure, is an invitation to grow stronger, wiser, and more resilient. It's through this ongoing process of overcoming that we carve out our true identity and realize our deepest potential. Imagine life as a series of mountains to climb. Each ascent is difficult, sometimes even painful, but with every summit reached, we gain a new perspective and a greater sense of what we're capable of. The journey itself becomes the reward because it's in the struggle that we discover our strengths and learn what really matters to us. Nietzsche saw this process as the essence of what it means to be human. We are not defined by our comfort, but by our capacity to rise above adversity and continually reinvent ourselves. This idea isn't just philosophical, it's deeply practical. When we embrace the mindset of overcoming, setbacks become stepping stones, and difficulties become opportunities for growth. We stop seeing ourselves as victims of circumstance and start to recognize our own agency in shaping our lives. But how do we actually set ourselves on this path? What practical steps can we take to cultivate this spirit of overcoming and growth in our everyday lives? The answer begins with the goals we choose to pursue. If overcoming is the true purpose of life, then the goals we set for ourselves become incredibly important. Nietzsche urges us to look beyond the superficial ambitions that society often pushes on us, things like wealth, status, or the approval of others. These goals might bring temporary satisfaction, but they rarely lead to lasting fulfillment. Instead, he challenges us to pursue goals that are authentic, deeply personal, and aligned with our core values. Ask yourself, what truly inspires you? What kind of impact do you want to have on the world? When our goals are rooted in genuine purpose and passion, they become sources of motivation that can sustain us through even the toughest challenges. These are the kinds of aspirations that give our lives direction and meaning, fueling our will to power and our capacity for growth. But it's important to remember that achieving meaningful goals isn't a one-time event. It's not about reaching a finish line and then resting on our laurels. Instead, it's part of a continuous cycle, a journey of striving, achieving, reflecting, and then setting new challenges for ourselves. This ongoing process is what keeps us growing and evolving, always reaching for the next summit. So how do we keep the cycle alive and ensure that each step forward leads to even greater self-discovery? That's where the practice of self-improvement and reflection comes in. Living a meaningful life, according to Nietzsche, is not about reaching a single goal and stopping there. It's about engaging in a continuous cycle of self-improvement and reflection. We set goals that matter to us, we work hard to achieve them, and then, just as importantly, we take the time to reflect on what we've learned along the way. Each victory, no matter how small, is an opportunity to pause and ask ourselves, how have I changed? What new strengths have I discovered? What challenges still lie ahead? This process of reflection is what transforms achievement into growth. It's not enough to simply succeed. We need to understand how each experience shapes us and prepares us for the next challenge. By doing this, we avoid becoming complacent and instead keep pushing ourselves to evolve. The journey never really ends. There's always another summit to reach, another lesson to learn, another part of ourselves to discover. Nietzsche's idea of eternal recurrence invites us to imagine living our lives over and over, making the same choices each time. It's a powerful reminder to live intentionally, to make choices we would be proud to repeat. This mindset keeps the cycle of self-overcoming alive, ensuring that we're always moving forward, always growing, and always striving to become the best version of ourselves. But this journey isn't just about personal growth. It's also about how we connect with others and find meaning in our shared experiences, especially through suffering. Suffering, as difficult as it can be, has a unique power to connect us, to ourselves and to each other. When we go through pain, we're forced to confront our vulnerabilities, and in doing so, we often discover a deeper sense of empathy for those around us. Think about the moments when you've shared your struggles with someone else, or when someone has opened up to you about their own hardships. Those conversations create bonds that are far more genuine than any small talk about the weather or the latest trends. In our shared suffering, we find a sense of humanity that transcends differences and brings us closer together. Accepting pain as a natural part of life also helps to demystify the idea that happiness should be constant. When we stop seeing suffering as a sign of failure, we free ourselves from the pressure to always appear happy and perfect. Instead, we can embrace the full spectrum of human experience, recognizing that both joy and pain have their place in a meaningful life. This acceptance allows us to be more compassionate with ourselves and others, and it opens the door to a deeper, more authentic sense of fulfillment. By transforming our relationship with suffering, we don't just endure pain, we use it as a source of strength and wisdom. This is where Nietzsche's philosophy truly comes alive, showing us that the path to power and happiness is not about avoiding hardship, but about embracing it and growing through it. So how does this transformation lead us to a richer, more meaningful happiness? Let's bring it all together. Nietzsche's philosophy invites us to flip the script. Instead of chasing happiness as a goal, he urges us to focus on cultivating our inner power, on growing, overcoming, and striving to become stronger through life's challenges. True happiness, in this view, isn't something we can grab by reaching for it directly. It's something that emerges naturally when we're fully engaged in the process of self-overcoming and personal growth. When we make the journey itself our focus, happiness stops being a distant destination and becomes a companion that walks beside us. It's the quiet satisfaction after a hard-fought battle, the pride that comes from facing our fears, and the joy that arises when we realize how far we've come. This kind of happiness is resilient. It doesn't vanish at the first sign of trouble because it's rooted in the strength we've built along the way. So maybe the secret isn't to seek happiness at all, but to embrace the paradox Nietzsche offers us. By seeking power, not over others, but over ourselves, and by welcoming growth, struggle, and transformation, we find the happiness that always seemed just out of reach. In the end, it's not about escaping pain or chasing pleasure, but about living courageously and fully, letting happiness find us as we become who we're truly meant to be.